Nam, come quick!
What's wrong?
I need to make a review on Persona 1, but apparently that game doesn't exist.
Oh no. Well, I'm sure things will work out tomorrow. Why don't you sleep on it?
No, I should probably just get something to eat. You in the mood for toast?
Whoa, wacky. I get that reference. How about some pancakes?
That's so witty of you. I never even saw it coming! Alright, I'm just gonna review the game now.
Yeah, you do that.
Persona! Once a relative unknown here in the West, it's grown in the past few years to be something widely appreciated by everyone. In all seriousness, each game has some insanely powerful emotional hooks, topped with plenty of gameplay systems that help elevate the entire experience to be something unique and unforgettable. For anyone who's stuck around this channel for long, you'll see that when it comes to Persona 5, yeah, I never shut up. But on my crusade to become the world's biggest shill for this series, after already claiming that throne with 13 Sentinels, it's only fair that I take a step back and work my way through every game and experience this franchise has to offer. In comes Persona 1, a kind of spin-off to Shin Megami Tensei. It's technically labeled under Megami Ibanroku, but that's a tangent for another day. And a game that, while many joke that it doesn't exist, is probably still the most niche title in its series. Regardless, I've always been curious as to how we got from here to here, so obviously that means starting right here at square one and playing through Persona 1. So
You could actually play SMTF, which spearheaded a lot of the concept.
Jeez, right, forgot you were still in my house. Well, if we're gonna be playing P1, we've got Nam's Compendium here to also share his thoughts and to potentially harass me. Nam?
Hey everyone, when I heard Ozzy was playing Persona 1, I just could not resist the urge to jump in and bully him over his opinions. Thanks for having me on, by the way.
Nice to have you here, totally invited, so yikes, let's get this over with while the cops are on their way. With all that said and done, this will be a spoiler review, though the plot isn't insanely dense, so it isn't that much of an issue. But if you want the short and simple because you're curious as to whether or not you should play P1, this game is really good and I like it. Play it. Also, fair warning, I chose to play the PSP version of this game for the review instead of the PS1 version, otherwise known as Revelations Persona, though I will touch on the various differences between the versions for all of you. I also chose to use the HD texture mod created by Ryubu, and it's honestly pretty dang cool. While I own the game on Vita, I had to use emulation to actually record my footage, so don't emulate unless you actually own the associated materials. But on that note, while I honestly don't mind the original visuals at all, the upscale is pretty snazzy. Not necessary, but it's cool. Now, with all clarifications dealt with, where do I even begin?
I mean, the start of the game would be nice.
Don't sass me. Also, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you like content like this, since there's gonna be a lot more in the future. Once I dreamt I was a butterfly. I forgot myself and knew only my happiness as a butterfly. Soon I awoke, and I was myself again. Did I dream that I was a butterfly? Or do I now dream that I am a man? Persona 1 opens with this quote from the philosopher Zhuangzi, and its thematic ties to the plot and themes from this point will never slow down. This game takes the butterfly concept to its core, and it's wholly present from the starting OP, which, this opening! Dream of Butterfly has such a perfectly fitting and intense quality to it. The aesthetic is blended together so well that it's honestly hard to tell until you've beaten the game that over half the visuals are solely taken from things you see within the game itself. It's really creatively handled, and the song itself is a clear favorite, being sung by Yumi Kawamura, most famous for her contributions to Persona 3. The original PS1 opening is very slow and kind of boring, I hate to say it, but it does give a drastically different tone that better fits aspects of the PS1 version's darker soundtrack, and it has a good few bits of symbolism that aren't present in Dream of Butterfly, but that actually hint towards a lot of interesting things within the plot. Not my personal preference, but it has its appeal. As the game actually moves ahead, it very quickly jumpstarts in a room with a bunch of random kids. No real fanfare or anything, we're just diving right in. We get some light interactions that introduce us to an assortment of the main cast, from Mark, Nanjo, Yukino, some other idiot, I don't freaking care, and Best Girl Ayase. Also, there's Naoya. This is me right there. The crew tempt fate by playing the Persona game, aka a babyish equivalent to Bloody Mary, except the ghost actually shows up and blam! Oh gosh, man down, everyone run! The entire cast takes a whooping via a broken outlet, but as they lay unconscious, they're visited in their dreams by a friendly spirit who calls himself Philemon. Oh no, I hate this, please switch to the PSP cutscenes! Much better. He then asked me if I still remember how to spell my own name, since I just got my brain boiled.
Splendid.
He discusses the basic concepts of personas and how they're the various selves within us. Apparently our soul is pretty cool, so he gives us this awesome crystal friend and we go off on our way from whatever the heck this was. Bam! You wake up in the nurse's office. It was all a dream. Seconds after waking up from your literal sleep paralysis, you're then told to leave the doctor's office so you can run down the street to visit the doctor. Maybe I really did get my brain fried. Leaving the school. How the frick do I get out of here? Oh, I can zoom around like a Looney Tunes character. That's neat. Nanjo's butler shows up because his father never would. I relate. And they simply dismiss him as they go to the hospital to meet up with Maki. She's apparently a friend of the group, so the crew wants to cheer her up however possible. The plan didn't really pan out. I sort of joked about it earlier, but seriously, the quality of the CG cutscenes in the PSP port is surprisingly great. It's always a treat to see them when they show up, so it's a worthwhile trade-off from that. Why is he just T-posing there? I don't understand what's going on. It doesn't... Why is he... Why? I honestly wish we got more of them, but as it stands, they hit a sweet spot of sorts. Anywho, the door turns into a wall, your first dungeon is in a hospital, everyone gets their personas at once, and Nanjo's not father bites the dust fighting some zombies. This moment is pretty brief and had barely any build-up, but it still establishes Nanjo and his arc throughout this game, so I can appreciate it a good bit. Honestly, a lot of the big emotional beats in this game can feel a little rushed in their setup, but when they hit real hard. I'll hold off on going beat by beat down the whole plot, but while we're here, why not talk about the gameplay itself? Anyone familiar with more traditional Megaten experiences will be used to this style of first-person dungeon crawling, but if you're a more modern fan, don't let this scare you off. The navigation is pretty simple and fluid, especially in the PSP version where your movement isn't, a mile a century, and it better fits a lot of the exploration elements within this game. If you played SMT Strange Journey, you know what you're getting into. Oh, and now we've got enemy encounters. Combat in this game is divisive. A lot of people find it incredibly boring and tedious, but to be honest, I thought they were pretty fun. It's definitely the most unique battle system in the entire series, where you have up to 5 party members arranged on a grid, where different abilities are assigned different attack ranges and shapes, and it almost plays out more like a strategy game than a traditional RPG at times. Persona Chess! I don't know if I'm actually going to use that. It's the common Persona shtick. Use elements to hit weaknesses and smack the crap out of your opponents. However, instead of the usual 10 or so elemental types, there are like 25. Some are variations of others that certain elements can be placed under, such as guns, axes, and swords, all being labeled under terms like physical, and it's decently easy to navigate what means what, but in all honesty, it's a bit needlessly complex, and in most situations, you can probably just power through enemies regardless of weakness. One change that might actually surprise newer Persona fans is that every party member can actually swap between up to 3 personas you assign to them, meaning their attacks are most often determined by whatever you yourself decide. This is pretty cool, but it does end up highlighting one of the stranger aspects of the gameplay loop. So, each party member has a regular level, each indicated by 5 stats, though only vitality and dexterity actually make a difference. But they also have a persona level, not in reference to each persona they use, but rather an indicator of what the highest level persona they can equip is. This level then gets averaged out across the entire party to determine what demons you can then recruit to join you in negotiations. It's a weird system, and honestly wouldn't be too huge of an issue if leveling in this game wasn't so weirdly executed. Each character's experience is primarily determined by how much damage they actively deal in battle. So, if you have 1 or 2 party members that wipe the floor, the level gap between them and the others will gradually widen. Granted, in my experience, it rarely caused an issue, mostly just in actually negotiating for new personas like previously stated, but it's still a bit of a baffling system in practice, so luckily it never was implemented after this game. Speaking of negotiations though, Nam, take it away.
Okay, let's just get this over with. Negotiation is a huge aspect of the Megami Tensei franchise, and it's as simple as it sounds. You talk to a demon and try to bargain with them until they become your ally. Persona 1 has a more unique take on this idea. Demons can feel multiple emotions depending on the actions your party members take. To keep things simple, your goal is to make a demon eager. By making a demon eager, you're able to get that demon's spell card. Think of it as a copy of the demon's essence. You can then use these spell cards to fuse brand new personas for your party members to use. It sounds very simple on paper, but the system is actually far more complex than you may first realize. Every demon has a personality type that's unique to them. This means that they'll respond differently to your party members' actions. Let's say you send out Mark to the front lines and have him danced crazy. While this will make one demon eager, this could potentially make another scared, happy, or even angry. The main challenge comes from discovering which action is well suited for the demon-specific personality type. At the start of the game, demons will only have one personality type, but eventually, they'll gain up to 4 different personalities, so negotiation does, at the very least, stay fresh. But one of the major flaws with the system in my eyes is the fact that there are too many different contact options to choose from. Every party member has 4 different methods of contact, and since you have 5 party members for almost the entire game, you have 20 different contact methods to choose from. Some demons are very specific when it comes to what makes them eager. So if you don't want to end up wasting a lot of time experimenting, it's in your best interest to look at the demon negotiation guide for this game. And that's not even considering the more technical aspects of this mechanic, such as the moon phases or how the average party level determines what demons you can negotiate with. It's all just too overwhelming for something that you only use once in a while. It's a very unique idea, and I'm not too sure about you, Ozzy, but I find this system a bit more frustrating than engaging.
Agreed. It's definitely interesting and at the very least is entertaining, but actually navigating through it is a bit more of a gamble than it needs to be. Battles otherwise tend to be your standard affair. Do damage, buff and debuff, inflict ailments, it's your standard JRPG. Though on the note of ailments, whomever decided to program fights to allow endless charm loops where I'm unable to attack for all eternity as I stare at my party beating each other up, you're a monster. But just fuse Lilin when you get the chance and that issue won't come up again due to her reflecting most ailments. Still kinda dumb though. Alright, I believe that's basically all the major gameplay systems out of the way. Of course there's all the different weapon types, the guns, which this is actually the only Persona game outside of P5 to actually have guns, and all that other stuff is basically just standard RPG equipment. Oh, and if Naoya dies in battle, the fight doesn't immediately end. Thank the Lord! Back to the campaign then. Once you leave the hospital, a couple of questions arise, such as what happened to Maki, why do we have these powers, and why the heck is the enemy encounter rate on the map screen so high? Like, people often complain about the frequency of random encounters in this game, and it almost never bothers me because it's rarely that bad. But for some reason, the map screen can range from having a battle every screen length or having one every 2 steps. You won't be on these screens incredibly often, but it's kinda dumb. Anywho, we briefly meet Maki's mom, who's been tanked by the apocalypse. Philemon goes off about destiny and willpower and choices and all other buzzwords, and we then proceed to hear about how some company called Sebek is potentially causing all this. We then skid over to the school, meet up with my girlfriend, what's up babe, and then Maki shows up? She's a lot healthier and for that matter, doesn't even seem to remember being hospitalized for 6 months. It's honestly a pretty good way to kick off one of the central mysteries of this game, but who gives a crap about that? Mark went to the police station to grab some guns, but he's now been captured by some spooky goblin folk. Good job protecting him, Nanjo. Once arriving, we have a short but neat dungeon trip, and then at the bottom, we find Mark with this loon.
Want me to tag along with you guys? You don't have any real star power without me, so how about it?
No!